You think you know what cold is? You do not. In Minneapolis, Minnesota, the average January temperature is 15 degrees Fahrenheit. The city averages 22 days per year where the air temperature drops below zero. Not wind chill, air temperature. And on the worst nights, wind chill can hit 55 below. That is the kind of cold that shuts down mail delivery and closes schools statewide. The kind that medical professionals say can kill an unprepared adult in less than 2 hours. Now imagine a man, no house, no shelter bed, no car, no heater, who looked at that cold and built something with his bare hands from what other people threw away. Not once, not twice, 14 times, 14 winters, and the thing he built to survive them. Everyone who heard about it laughed, called it stupid. He is still alive. Most of the people who laughed at him never had to face what he faced, but if they did, they would not be laughing anymore. His name is Earl Dayton. In the story we are telling today, Earl is 54 years old, a former construction framer from the Minneapolis suburb of Crystal who lost his job in 2006 after a fall on a job site fractured 2 vertebrae in his lower back. He went from earning $22 an hour to managing chronic pain with pills a doctor prescribed. Then pills he bought from people who were not doctors, then nothing at all, once he could not afford either. By 2009, the apartment was gone. The truck was gone. By the first week of October 2009, Earl Dayton was sleeping outside in Minneapolis with nothing but a donated sleeping bag, a backpack, and 41 years of knowing how to build things. The shelter system in Minneapolis has always been overwhelmed. Beds fill up fast. On the nights it matters most, the nights when the temperature falls off a cliff, the city's emergency response adds perhaps 80 additional spaces to a system serving well over 1,000 unsheltered people. The math does not work. It has never worked. Earl learned that on his second night, when he arrived at a downtown shelter to find the line stretching around the block and a volunteer telling him, politely but firmly, that there was no room. So he went back outside, into the dark, into the cold. And here is where it gets interesting, because most men in Earl's position would have kept doing what they were told to do. Keep moving, find a vent, huddle with other people, pray for morning. Earl did something different. Earl thought like a framer. So, before we go any further, we want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where you were completely unprepared for the cold? A camping trip that turned brutal, a car that broke down in January, a power outage that lasted 3 days in winter? Drop it in the comments below. Tell us what you did and whether it worked, because what you are about to discover is going to change the way you think about warmth, about shelter, and about the extraordinary survival intelligence hiding in plain sight on the streets of the coldest major city in the United States. Here is the version of staying warm that most people know. You layer up, you wear a thermal undershirt, a fleece, a parka. You buy hand warmers from a gas station. You find a doorway that blocks the wind. You wrap yourself in a donated blanket, almost certainly cotton, because cotton is what people donate, and you curl up as tight as you can and you wait for the sun. That is the standard advice. That is what every outreach worker will tell you, what every pamphlet will say, what every well-meaning person offering help will recommend. And it fails, constantly, predictably, lethally. Here is why. Cotton holds moisture. When your body sweats, and your body always sweats, even at sub-zero temperatures, because your body is working incredibly hard to keep you alive, cotton absorbs that moisture and holds it against your skin. Wet skin loses heat roughly 25 times faster than dry skin. So the blanket that was supposed to protect you becomes the thing that is killing you. The hand warmers last maybe 2 hours. The doorway blocks the wind from one direction, while the cold concrete beneath you conducts heat away from your body at a rate no blanket can offset. The ground is the problem nobody tells you about. On a 0-degree night, lying directly on frozen ground or frozen pavement without adequate insulation beneath you is like pressing your body against a block of ice for 8 hours. No blanket on top of you compensates for what is being stolen from beneath. Doctors and emergency medicine professionals have long understood that hypothermia does not require extreme temperatures to kill. It can begin at temperatures as warm as 50 degrees Fahrenheit when the person is wet. 72% of hypothermic episodes in homeless populations occur at temperatures that most house people would describe as cold but manageable. Not -40, not polar vortex conditions. Just a wet November night where the donated cotton blanket quietly soaks up moisture and the body heat bleeds away before anyone notices. This is the failure built into the standard approach, and the failure is not random, it is systemic. The items most often donated to homeless shelters and street outreach programs, cotton blankets, cotton hoodies, cotton sleeping bags, are the exact materials that perform worst in cold, wet conditions. The advice most often given, stay moving, find a vent, or layer up, addresses wind and air temperature while completely ignoring ground conduction, which is often the primary heat loss mechanism. The system was designed by people who had never slept outside, and the people it was supposed to protect paid for that ignorance with their lives. That is not Earl's fault. That is not your fault. That is the fault of a response built around what was easy to collect and donate, not around what actually works. The failure was designed in, and for years, nobody questioned it. Earl questioned it on his third night outside. He was a framer. He had spent 20 years installing insulation in walls and floors and attics. He understood at a bone level that most people never develop that insulation is not magic. It is physics. Heat moves toward cold. The job of any insulating material is to slow that movement, and the thing that does the slowing is not the material itself. It is the air trapped inside the material. Fiberglass insulation does not keep your house warm because of the glass fibers. It keeps your house warm because the glass fibers create millions of tiny pockets of still air. Still air is an extraordinary insulator. Moving air, wind, is the opposite. Wind strips those air pockets away. The enemy of warmth is not cold. The enemy of warmth is moving air and moisture. Earl knew all of this. He just had to figure out how to apply it with what he could carry. Here is what he came up with. And yes, when he described it to other people on the street, they laughed. Layer 1, the ground barrier. Every night before anything else, Earl laid down a base of flattened cardboard boxes. Not one layer, 3 to 4 layers, overlapping like scales. Cardboard is one of the most underrated insulating materials on Earth. Its internal honeycomb structure traps air in thousands of tiny chambers. The same principle behind fiberglass insulation. The same principle behind the down jacket you paid $300 for. Earl was getting it for free from behind a grocery store. The cardboard broke the conductive link between his body and the frozen ground. That single change, Earl would later say, made more difference than anything else he ever did. Layer 2, the dead air skin. Before getting into his sleeping bag, Earl stuffed his clothing with crumpled newspaper. Not flat sheets, crumpled balls of it, layered inside his shirt and inside his pants against his legs. Crumpled newspaper, like cardboard, is almost entirely made of trapped air. It creates a dead air layer around the body that moves with you, stays warm, and can be replaced every night from any recycling bin. Think of it like this. Down insulation in an expensive sleeping bag works because down clusters trap small pockets of warm air around your body. Newspaper does the same thing at a cost of exactly $0. Outreach workers and survival guides have documented this technique for decades. Earl did not invent it, but he refined it. He learned exactly how much to use, where to concentrate it, how to keep it dry. Moisture was always the enemy. He never let the newspaper get wet. Layer 3, the mylar sandwich. Earl scavenged emergency mylar blankets from donation bins, from discarded first aid kits, from anywhere he could find them. Why emergency mylar blankets, the thin silver ones that look like they belong on a space capsule, work on a different principle than conventional insulation. They do not trap air, they reflect heat. Your body emits infrared radiation constantly, even at rest. A mylar surface reflects up to 95% of that radiation back toward you. But mylar alone is fragile, noisy, and loses its effectiveness if it touches your skin directly. Earl figured out the sandwich, a layer of regular blanket next to the skin to wick any surface moisture, the mylar layer over that to reflect heat back, and a heavy outer layer on top to block wind and hold everything in place. 3 layers, ground insulation beneath, dead air newspaper layer underneath the blanket, mylar sandwich on top. That was the system. Layer 4, the moisture protocol. This was the part that looked the strangest to anyone watching. Our Earl refused to wear cotton in winter. He sought out wool and fleece aggressively, from donation bins, from churches, from anywhere. When people offered him cotton blankets, he would sometimes accept them politely and then use them only as an outer windbreak, never against his skin. He never slept in wet clothes, even if it meant sleeping in almost nothing while wet clothes dried nearby. He understood that a dry body at 20 below is infinitely safer than a wet body at 32 degrees. He would go without a shower for a week, rather than get wet and then sleep in the cold without time to properly dry. People thought he was eccentric. He thought he was applying construction-grade physics to the problem of staying alive. Here is where it gets remarkable. The system Earl built from cardboard, newspaper, mylar blankets, and secondhand wool was applying the exact same four-principle approach that modern extreme weather sleeping bags are engineered to deliver. Conduction management through ground insulation, convection management through wind barriers, radiation management through reflective material, evaporation management through moisture-wicking fabric layers. Earl had no engineering degree. He had a framer's understanding of how buildings keep people warm. He applied it to his own body. And it worked. 14 winters, 14 years. The coldest recorded wind chill during those years in Minneapolis hit negative 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Earl was there for that. He was cold. He was never dead. So, why does none of this appear in the standard advice given to homeless individuals in cold climates? Why are cotton blankets still the dominant donation item? Why do outreach programs still hand out materials that perform poorly in the exact conditions they are meant to address? 3 reasons: speed, cost, and the wrong kind of generosity. The speed problem is this: distributing cotton blankets is fast. They are easy to collect. What's easy to transport, easy to hand out. Educating someone on a layered moisture management insulation system takes time and trust. Street outreach workers are understaffed, undersupported, and serving hundreds of people a night during cold snaps. The system optimizes for volume of distribution, not quality of outcome. The cost problem is that wool and synthetic fabrics cost more than cotton. Mylar blankets cost more per unit than a donated cotton throw. Cardboard, ironically, is free, but coordinating cardboard distribution is logistically strange and socially awkward, so it does not happen systematically. And the wrong kind of generosity is perhaps the most insidious piece. Most donation drives are organized by people who want to help, but who do not have detailed cold weather survival knowledge. They donate what feels warm to them. A soft cotton blanket feels warm when you pull it out of a closet in a heated house. It does not feel warm 6 hours later when it has absorbed 3 hours of body moisture and the temperature outside is 8 degrees Fahrenheit. The feedback loop that would correct this failure, the experience of sleeping outside in that blanket, is one that donors by definition never have. So the system stays broken, and every year people die from cold exposure at temperatures that should not kill them, wrapped in cotton blankets distributed by people who genuinely wanted to help. The hidden cost of optimizing for comfort and ease in the donation process is paid in hypothermic deaths on concrete sidewalks. And for years, the conversation has blamed the victims, called them resistant to help, called them unable to care for themselves, rather than examining whether the help being offered was actually appropriate to the problem. Earl was not broken. He was just never given the right information. When he figured it out himself, people called his solution stupid. It was the smartest thing anyone on that street was doing. So, what can you do with this? What does Earl's system look like in practice for someone who wants to either apply it or help others apply it? If you are looking to help someone unsheltered in your community, the most immediately useful thing you can do is change what you donate. Wool blankets, wool socks, and fleece outerwear dramatically outperform cotton in cold, wet conditions. Many outdoor gear retailers sell factory second or discontinued wool items at significant discounts. Emergency mylar blankets can be bought in bulk for roughly $1 each and packed down to almost nothing. A dozen mylar blankets in a small bag is easier to distribute and more thermally effective than a stack of cotton throws. Cardboard is free at every grocery store, big box retailer, and appliance shop in America. If you are connected to any kind of outreach organization, ask them whether they have a cardboard distribution protocol for their coldest nights. If the answer is no, you have just identified the lowest cost, highest impact improvement they could make. If you want to build Earl's system yourself for camping, emergency preparedness, or any situation where you are sleeping in serious cold without heated shelter, here is the core sequence. First, always insulate the ground beneath you before anything else. 3 to 4 layers of cardboard, a foam pad, a mylar sheet face up, anything that breaks the conductive link between your body and the cold surface. Second, create a dead air layer against your body using crumpled dry newspaper stuffed inside a base layer, or a wool or fleece layer worn close to the skin. Third, add a reflective mylar layer over that, wrapped or laid over you like a blanket, not touching bare skin. Fourth, add an outer layer of whatever you have for wind protection. Finally, and critically, eliminate moisture at every step. Avoid cotton against the skin. Do not sweat excessively before sleeping. Never sleep in wet clothes. Moisture management is not a detail, it is the entire architecture. And if you are in a situation where you cannot do any of this tonight, the minimum is this: get off the ground. Anything between you and the surface beneath you is more valuable than anything on top of you. A single piece of cardboard is worth more, thermally, than a second blanket. That one fact alone, prioritize the ground barrier above all else, is the piece of knowledge that survival professionals, emergency medicine specialists, and people like Earl have all arrived at independently. And it is almost never in the pamphlet. Earl Dayton was not a victim waiting to be rescued. He was an engineer solving a problem with the materials available to him. He looked at the same cold that had killed men sleeping 30 feet away from him, and he said, "I know what this is. I know what moves heat, and I know how to stop it." The knowledge was never mysterious. It was never lost. It was sitting in every wall he had ever framed, in every insulation bat he had ever pressed into a stud bay, in every principle of building science he had ever applied to someone else's house. He just had to apply it to himself. And when he did, people laughed. The secret was never hidden. It was just never handed to the people who needed it most. Subscribe to this channel. While we are digging up the practical knowledge that has been sitting right in front of us, the survival intelligence, the forgotten physics, the common sense engineering that never made it into the pamphlet, the program, or the donation bin. Tell us in the comments what topic you want us to investigate next. What problem do you face where you feel like the standard advice has never actually worked? We want to know. We are just getting started.